So in this workout, we're going to focus on your arm mechanics. Now for today, we're going to focus on your catch, but I'll also be talking about the mid pull because that's the setup that we are getting ready for. And then later on, I'll talk about the arm pull as a whole, some of the other finer points, the acceleration from the start to the finish, some of the rotational aspects, etc. But we are just going to look at the arm mechanics today. So starting with using my video here, the catch starts right after the recovery finishes. So the last section we finished was with the recovery. So that entry in front of the shoulder, extending out under the water, clearing the bubbles off, and now we are ready to set up our paddle. So that first little bit is really just letting that hand drop down, and we're trying to get some internal rotation of the shoulder for the purpose of setting our paddle up in a vertical position as early as possible. So our paddle being our hand and forearm, this is what we want as our anchor point to drive the rest of the arm pull. Now, if you can make that mind shift where you are now thinking of your arm pull more as an anchor point that you are then trying to move the body past, as opposed to you just moving your arms through the water, that will make a huge difference when we start talking about making that full body connection, having everything work together, and actually improving the efficiency of your arm pull. So there's a huge difference between moving the arms through the water, because I can do that really hard with a lot of force, work really hard, but actually have that result in no forward movement whatsoever. So the difference of moving the arm fast through the water and the body moving through the water is totally different. So that efficiency really comes in being able to set up this anchor point. And then again, later on, we're going to talk about how do we connect the whole body, the kick, the rotation, using these big muscles of the lats and the pecs to then really move the body forward, as opposed to just making splashes with our arms. So this is the anchor that we are trying to set up, and it works just like an anchor really does in the water. So when you drop an anchor and you're starting to drag it, it's dragging across the bottom of the ocean floor, lake floor, whatever. That would be that first little setup here. So dragging through the sand, and now it bites. Now I actually have grip, something that I can anchor against. And in the pool here, now I'm moving into the mid pull, which is really when the power is starting to come on, and I am holding as much water as possible. So one way to check this out is in this 45-degree angle, over all of the arm. If you were to draw a line from the armpit to the hand, is the elbow a little higher than that line? And if so, then we're actually getting pretty good setup of our catch here. And as you can see, I'm doing that pretty much all the way through. As opposed, unfortunately, Kevin here, this would be the opposite. So this would be the drop elbow, where if I'm to draw a line at this 45-degree angle here from the armpit to the hand, the elbow sits below. And you can see a little bit more pronounced on the other side. Now that being said, it's a little deceiving in the camera angles looking at the close side to the far side. But as you can see, the elbow dropping, leading. And what happens here is if this is the anchor, all the water is sliding off the anchor. Kevin's compensating a bit with a little bit of wrist flexion to try to grab that water, and some of you do a really good job at this. But if we had this internal rotation of the shoulder a little bit more popped up, then we would have this whole paddle actually pushing backwards, which is the opposite direction we want our body to actually move in. Now, usually the problem is you're putting too much force at the top of the stroke. If I'm trying to rip it from the start, and I'm ripping it with internal rotation of the shoulder, I'm going to rip something. It's probably not going to be the water. I'm going to rip my shoulder apart. So up top should be really easy. Like, I have no doubt if you're sitting in the chair right now, you kept the shoulder isolated, not moving, kept the elbow isolated, not moving, and just brought your hand down towards your head, which is the internal rotation we're looking for. You all can do that. It's just you can't do it in the water when you're working too hard. So that'd be a great lesson for easing down, slow down, go easy, do the movement correctly, and then we'll build speed in later once you've developed the movement capacity as well as the strength and stability through the shoulder to provide a little more force. So taking it easy on the front end, rotating, setting up your paddle, that's the main focus of the catch. So looking at Sam here, Sam is developing, I would say. So again, once you get down to this 45 here, if I'm to draw that line from the armpit to the hand, that elbow is pretty much in line, maybe popped up just a bit. So it is coming for sure, but definitely work to do. I would say everybody has work to do on this element. Luca here, you can see on the far side, and again, there's a little deception from the camera angle, as I said, but quite a bit of a leading elbow on the far side. And that typically happens, if there's going to be any issues with the arm pull, it's going to happen after this breath here. So after the breath, that's when things usually break down. We're a little bit out of balance. I've talked about in previous videos. You're not looking at the arm, so, it's kind of operating incognito here. And then the difference between this arm here that sets up really nice. So, now we're really getting some internal rotation. So Luca, we can balance that out. And when we again start talking about connecting the whole body, we'll want to do that because this whole side isn't connected. Rob here, when we talk about compensation of wrist flexion, well, there's the master right there. So instead of getting the internal shoulder rotation and, getting the forearm involved, really just compensating with the wrist here to get the water earlier, but then it sets up really nice. So could work on that a little bit. Both sides are doing that, but only from time to time. So again, you can see the wrist flexion and then it just goes away, which I would say probably is a little less effective. So I'll have to figure that one out, Rob. Moving on here. This is me sprinting, which I wanted to show the difference in terms of going easy and at speed. Now, obviously, and the camera's not the best. It's tilted a bit. You can see the stroke rate's way up. I'm not cleaning bubbles off. They call it splash and dash for a reason. But really what I wanted to illustrate was I am setting up, as you can see, but not nearly as much as what I was doing when I was going slow. And again, that would be the deception on the far side there. You can see I'm cheating with the wrist a little bit. So things break down when you go fast. So go easy. Looking at the front of the stroke, which is just as important in terms of setting up that, or setting up for the mid pull to really grab the water as the catch. And really what we're trying to get to is this nice power diamond or triangle. So if we can draw a straight line down through the shoulders to the elbow, we're looking for about a 90-degree bend back to the hand. And we're looking for the fingertips to be either around coming to the midline or just to the outside of the body. And what this allows you to do is you're maximizing the surface area. So you're still using the forearm and the hand. But you're finding a really good position that your lever arm is not too long. So if you're doing a straight arm, you have a super long lever arm, which takes more force to move. And the speed differential from the hand to the upper arm is so much bigger that the upper arm can actually start creating frontal drag from that speed differential. So you'll see that on some of you. We're also looking at muscle activation, and with that bent elbow, with the elbow out a little wider in this position here, I can activate the big muscles that we want to be using, the lats, the pecs, a lot more effectively than we could with a straight arm pull. And it would be just like doing a straight arm lat pull down or trying to get out at the side of the pool. Doing that with the straight arm is a lot harder than doing it with a bent elbow. A little bit closer. Now you can be too close. I wouldn't come any more than a 90-degree bend, or then we're starting to get really close and probably losing a little bit of water. I'm pushing it here. I would probably want to go a little bit deeper. But that can be something that I work on. So again, this is the power diamond where we're trying to get into, activate the lats, holding the water well, good speed differential. And that will be the position we're looking for. So we look at, I got a couple people here. Sam is a little deep and a little wide. One of the things you can see on me as the hand goes under the hip at the finish, I can use that last little bit of rotation to snap through. where if you're a little wider, as you can see, that last little bit of rotation with that snap under the hip doesn't really happen, and the hand just kind of traces back and losing a little bit of snap at the finish there. Not that there's a lot of power at the finish, but again, everything can work together a little bit better. Michelle's got a little straighter arm pull here. So this is what I was talking about in terms of going a little too deep. Big speed differential between the top of the arm and the hand. So to pop this elbow out a little bit, to bring the hand a little closer, we're going to be able to utilize those lats and pec muscles a little bit better as well. So a little bit of work to do there. Dustin is a little bit asymmetric. So setting up, as you can see here on the right, but because of the asymmetry in the recovery and the timing, this left just kind of floats through. So in terms of getting the whole body connection, we got a little bit of work just to set that up more effectively, where we can get that power triangle a little bit earlier, maybe bend the elbow a little bit more. And then when you can see here, see that the big in the back there, the legs spread way apart. This is, everything connecting to drive that rotation to full through. We can just do that by grabbing a little bit more water, or be more efficient by grabbing more water by letting that set up a little bit better. So again, one side is doing it pretty good. Other side we need to work on. Kiri is a little wide in the pull. So this would be what happens when you're out beyond the midline. It definitely has an impact on the body roll. So you can see Kiri's a little bit flatter. And again, through that finish, we don't really get much of that snap underneath the hip. This would be great for a choppy open water swim. Keep the stroke rate up, stay balanced. But a calm open water or pool, we can definitely play with the technique a little bit to improve the efficiency. Looking, is this Kyler? Similar, straight arm, need to bend a little bit more. Carolyn, straighter arm, could bend a little bit more. So it's pretty much everybody. Kayla, this is what happens after the breath. Again, this is the danger pull. When you're not looking at that arm, when you're a little rolled over too far, out of balance, and then you come over, and this is, if you're going to cross over, this is probably where it's going to happen. And as you can see here, we're well across the midline, which does cause quite a bit of snaking. On the other side, we got a little bit of a sweep out here, so we're not quite getting right into the catch. And then it comes back under. And you can see what that does to the body position. We got a little bit of arch in the back, kind of twisted around a bit. So a little bit of work to clean that up, which is definitely ongoing. And then we have a little bit of transitional slipping, which tends to happen from the catch to the mid pull. So as we transition from catch here to the finish, and we'll see it a couple times, the wrist breaks. And then sometimes we can have this little, watch this elbow pull up to the surface. We got a little slip, boop, boop, boop. So that's our natural way of finding the path of least resistance. And we're going to fix that by doing a whole ton of sculling, maintaining that water pressure the whole time. So we're not, losing any of these little bits of water. And we can pull that piece of water all the way through. From the front here, we can see the little break of the wrist there, right there. Pitch in the hand changes just a bit to cheat a bit. And I know you've just gotten back in the pool, so I appreciate using the example, and it is definitely going to improve quickly with some swimming miles. Like, the overall setup is not too bad. We just got to get a little bit more of the stability. So, looking at the workout that we're going to focus on today, we're going to start off with a simple swim kick combo where you are going to start with swimming and gradually work in more and more of the kick. So you're starting with 100 to swim, and then 75 swim, 25 kick, 50 swim, 50 kick. Depending what level that you're at, that might be as far as you go, or you'll continue on until you get to all the way to straight kick. Then we'll move on to the main set where we start getting into some of the drill work. We're going to start off with 475s where you're going double arm catch Scull. So that is going to be catch Scull on your front, both arms at the same time, up here in the catch. So ideally, you're on your front, lower the arms down to the point where you're starting to get into the catch. So when I was drawing those lines, connecting the armpit or the shoulders to the hand, that kind of 45-degree, maybe a little bit less, is kind of where you want to get to, and hopefully getting some internal rotation of the shoulder to get into that higher elbow catch position. So we're going to work this for recovery, but also for feel, and we'll move into that more of that later on. So sculling really is just about maintaining water pressure on your paddle. As you scull out, you're maintaining water pressure, then you're just changing the pitch of the hand. Once you go a little bit beyond the shoulder line, and you're back to the middle. So sculling out, sculling in, holding the water pressure out, holding the water pressure in. And it can be just nice and slow, just like this. And again, hopefully you're getting that internal rotation a little bit more to start working on that catch setup. So that will be the first drill, where again, you're going 25 to scull, and then we'll swim 50 freestyle, where think about that catch setup when you start actually putting it into your freestyle stroke. Then we're going to do 8 50s, or a set of 50s, again, depending on what level that you're at, where we're doing one arm freestyle, just catch to mid pull. So just the front here. You're going to pull up a little bit early, so you're not going to finish all the way through past the hip. You're going to pull up before the hip, probably just after, your rib cage here and back. So really focus on popping that high elbow, setting up the catch, and again, you'll pull out at the mid pull. So we're going to focus on the front end of the stroke for a 50, and then you're going to swim a freestyle, where again, the focus is on the front end of the stroke. Then we are going to move through a set of drills, where we're doing 2 drills that are going to work on setting up again your paddle, and then we'll swim it out with the freestyle. So the underwater recovery is just as it sounds. Sometimes people call it doggy paddle. Same thing. Instead of recovering up over the water, you are going to sneak it back, the recovering arm back underneath, and that will be your recovery. So you are still going to do full strokes all the way through, just sneak the recovery back. So what that is going to force is that high elbow catch setup. Because you're having to counteract the forces of that recovering arm under the water, it's going to require you to be that much more efficient in your catch setup to even move forward. The next one will be closed fist. So swimming freestyle, closed fist, no cheating, close it up, and use the forearm as the paddle. So when you lose the big hand paddle, you're resorted to the forearm. And for some of you that are cheating in the early stage of the catch, now you can't cheat anymore. You got to set up the full forearm, the full paddle. So that will be those 2 drills, and then again, we'll take it into freestyle. So a bunch of 25s, a little bit of rest in between each one, 10, 15 seconds. I have 15 here, and work your way through. Then the last one will be 4 200s. We're just going to swim out a little bit of distance, alternating pull and fins. Use the tools to keep the intensity low. Again, if you're doing a lower level and you're doing 100s or 50s, or you're cutting this back, that's all good as well. Just a little aerobic endurance and thinking about your beautiful catch mechanics. Then we'll cool down, call it a day. Next workout, we're on to the mid pull.